The final episode of our series on Irish whiskey. We're here at Nuala Bar with Blue, and we're talking about Teeling.
Teeling has a cool story as a family in general, because their father, John Teeling, founded the Teeling Distillery in the 90s, and the Teeling Distillery is a contract distillery. So contract distilleries make whiskey for other people, or they make spirits in general for other people. Like we have some in London that makes loads of gin for loads of gin brands, and Teeling was the one that was making Irish whiskey for people that didn't have necessarily the money to build a whiskey distillery. Like if I want to launch my own whiskey, I don't have 80 million spare in my bank account, you know. Some people may, I don't. So you can call the distillery and prepare to just, like, they will send you the barrels and then you blend them yourself.
Okay.
And you launch it under your own name. That's what they used to do. They got sold to Jim Beam Suntory for a decent amount of money, and in the contract was also stipulated that they could keep a large amount of the stock. With that money, the children actually built their own distillery, and whilst the distillery is being set up and it's been launched, and you know they're starting to produce their liquid and started to mature the liquid, they can actually sell their father's liquid. So that's why they're a 5-year-old company also, and they have a 33-year-old whiskey on the market.
I see. That's a bit unusual, isn't
Yeah,
it?
a little bit unusual, which is very exciting again to be part of, like the Irish whiskey revival at the moment, because when they're going to be launching their own liquid, it's pretty. We're all really excited for it. They have so many products that I absolutely love, like the Revival range. So that one, every year since they launched their distillery, all the way, like counting down until they are launching their own liquid, they have launched a limited edition. So it's a yearly release of a limited edition matured in a specific cask. So they've had, this one is Pinot de Charente, which is a 14-year-old. They've had a Calvados cask. They have a Muscat cask, which we have there. Is it Muscat? Yeah. They have the 15, which is in Muscat barrels. This one is in Pinot de Charente. I think my favorite overall was the Calvados one, and they've just launched their last revival edition.
Is it a revival of Irish whiskey that they're talking about? And they're saying that this is where Irish whiskey, we're doing different things.
Yes, it's really the revival of Irish whiskey being just launched again.
Yeah.
And all the distilleries launching together. It's also them coming back to Dublin in the Liberties area that used to have loads of distilleries that had none left. Even the Jameson Experience in Dublin, that's not actually where Jameson is produced, it's produced in Middleton. But Teeling has actually set up the distillery in Dublin.
Wow. And I mean, and they're clearly doing something different with the packaging. I mean, I've never seen bottles like this. They look like tequila bottles.
Yeah, they look, I love these bottles. I think this is more of their kind of premium range. So we're talking around £110 for these, all the way up to £4,000 for the 33. So yeah. This is their more special edition. That's also why it's got a more special packaging. I think they look very luxurious. I love these bottles.
Yeah.
And this is their, this is another limited edition from them, but a lot more affordable. This is the Brabazon edition, a limited edition where every edition is going to be in a different cask. So this one is exclusively sherry cask, and the second edition is exclusively port cask, which we're expecting to receive soon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, putting pressure on my manager because now it's on camera.
Oh.
So we have to receive it.
Obviously, because people will come down, and if it's not here, they'll, where's the port?
Where's the port? Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, Spencer, we do have to order that Teeling port. Yeah, I think we should try these ones.
I think we should too.
All their range is unchill filtered as well, and no coloring added.
It's really light.
It's very light on the nose.
But it's got a lot more intensity on the palate than you'd expect.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you just smelling it, it's it's light, floral, probably what you expect from typical Irish whiskey. But it packs a lot more punch on the palate.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Pinot de Charente is a French. So it's an aperitif that's made from unfermented grape juice most of the time, and then been fortified afterwards.
What's your take on lots of these different different spirits using French?
casks.
Yeah, because as I imagine a pure French woman of wine.
I think it can be interesting if it's something that you've never tried before and if it genuinely has an impact on the liquids, which I think you see quite well across the range of the Revival because they all have such a different flavor profile. But I do think that sometimes some of the whiskies I've come across that are matured in that specific cask, and you taste it and you're like, it just tastes like everything else you've just produced. So as long as it can be justified by what does it taste like, or has a really cool story, like we went through the Middleton Derg Lake using Irish oak, which nobody uses and which has like such a history behind it, then it's exciting. And then I'm willing also to pay the price for it, because those funky casks finish usually cost more.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to justify it by the flavor. Is it that does the flavor actually match the price? Does the story actually match the marketing behind it? You know, is it just marketing or is it actually interesting?
Yeah. I think this is quite interesting.
Yeah, I do think so. Especially as you pointed out, like the difference between the nose that's like so light and then you taste it and that's not at all what you expect from it. Then we have the 15. You can see the difference.
Massive difference. And so tell me again, besides just being a 14 and a 15, remind me what's the difference in the wood between these two?
So this one is finished in a Pinot de Charente cask, and this one is in a cask that used to contain Muscat. So Muscat is a sweet wine. So you do get quite the sweetness of the grape and the sweetness of the wine, but I think that even just 1 year older, you can really taste it. To me, it's a lot more oaky.
Yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying. It's oaky. It's a bit more robust, I think, than the 14-year-old. But they're both great.
They're both great, but I think that's what I like about that range, is that you can really see from 1 year to another that there is a reason why they would use that cask or why they use that cask, and how they all have a very different flavor profile.
I can see when you're talking earlier about the importance of the story and using the wood cask for a specific reason. Yeah. Clearly, this was done intentionally, and it's not just a bit of marketing. Yeah, that there's a reason they left this in for an extra year in a very different kind of oak, because it is a very interesting flavor, and the two are vastly different. Yeah,
that's why I tend to prefer the 14, but I know that I also tend to prefer younger whiskies, which is something with age statements that I tend to not really care about, or I have struggled with people coming in and saying, oh, I only drink 15 years and older.
Obviously, I would never disrespect my palate with something so young.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, what does it taste like? And for me, the 15 is too much. That's why I prefer the 14. And I know that there's even my favorite, which was the Calvados cask. I think it was the 12-year-old or 13-year-old. And it is younger, but it is what I was expecting, something a bit fresher, a bit more apple flavors. The 14, I think, is really interesting because I've never had a Pinot de Charente finish. And as we said, the nose is so much lighter, and then the 15 for me starts to get too much. But there's some people that it's really going to appeal to, and some people who want something like quite woody and dark and sweeter. It's still quite complex, and
I think they're both complex, but there is probably
I think robust was the right.
Yeah, robust is the right word. Yeah, but they're both great, and it's interesting to see what's come through with them. Thank you very much for watching our series on Irish whiskey. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking us through this. I really enjoyed drinking all of that amazing whiskey. Can I have some potato chips?
Oh my god. That's what I just get out.